And we are back. Today I got a different creepypasta or scary story, whatever you want to call it. This one is by Darkness Prevails. I'm sorry. He's gonna be narrating. Let's see. In a haunted church. Yeah, in a haunted church. Wow. I thought that'd be pretty interesting when I first saw the title. I just forgot I had to see it again. So let's get it to this.
I had this story planned especially for those churchgoers out there. I was raised up in church. For the first quarter of my life, I went to church every Sunday morning and evening, as well as every Wednesday night. And while I was there, I heard many a scary story about ghosts and hauntings. The story I am about to share with you is an especially creepy one. It really shows you just how creepy churches can be, especially when you're trapped in one at night. This is The Haunted Church Sleepover, submitted by Con Olive. I don't go to church anymore. I used to go all the time. But as I grew older, I developed my own set of beliefs. This life is about open-mindedness, not just simply accepting the first idea thrown at you when you're young, when you're naive. And to be completely honest, it would be a lie if I said this experience hasn't shaped my current ideals. So far, it's been the most traumatizing experience of my life. I was 13 at the time, my first year of being a part of the youth group at my local church. Everyone from 13 to 17 attended a sermon with the youth pastor in the back of the church, while the adults and the children attended the sermon with the preacher up front. I was nervous. I had always been pretty skeptical with everything at church, and I was an introvert. I didn't try to make friends with the people around me. I was content with my own thoughts and interests, usually. Well, a few months into my new youth group participation, the youth pastor invited us all to an upcoming lock-in. It would be a sleepover just for the youth. We would pack our sleeping bags and games and stay all night in the church. The weird part was I was pretty excited about it. I was a big gamer. As an only child, I didn't have many opportunities to play games with other people. Being an introvert, I really didn't try to find other people to play with. But now I had an excuse and a chance to share what I loved with a bunch of my peers. I packed up my GameCube and PSP along with all of my games. My mom dropped me off that night, and I made my way somewhat hesitantly into the church. Right off the bat, I couldn't help but notice how creepy the place looked at night. The ornamental crosses became somewhat sinister without so much as a candlelight's glow. I found a spot to unpack my sleeping bag, then unpacked my games by the TV. Almost right away, the other guys were interested. I had brought my GameCube, 4 controllers, and Mario Party. I believe it was number 7. It came with the little microphone that was sold with the game. We ended up playing a 3-hour-long 8-player game. It was the most fun and memorable gaming experience I've ever had. We laughed, we joked, we just had so much fun together. Afterwards, it must have been about 11 at night by then. We sat around in a bit of a circle, telling stories from our lives. I didn't have much to share, so I mostly listened and replied when I could. The youth pastor had already passed out on an old pew. And this is when the creepy stuff started. There's a small hallway that connects the assembly hall, which we were staying in, with a long closed-off corridor that eventually leads to the front. Before it's closed off by a door, there are 2 bathrooms to the left. And as we sat there talking, very slowly and very audibly, the men's bathroom door began to creak open. This wasn't at all subtle. The moment it began creaking, we all turned and looked and watched it creak all the way open. It lasted about 45
Didn't know they were
seconds,
gonna have
then
ad sounds
stopped
in
when the
it.
door hit the wall spring to keep the doorknob from damaging the wall. My jaw dropped, and all of us just sat there. Eventually, we all kind of scooted closer to each other, never breaking our gaze from the hallway. "The heck was that?" one of us whispered. We sat still for about 10 minutes. The only sound was the youth pastor's snoring. Then we heard a crash behind us, and we all jumped up and away from the sound. It was the ceiling fan furthest back in the room. It just fell and landed on the floor, the glass fixtures shattering. My heart was pounding at this point, and we all heard the youth pastor wake up and shout, asking why we were being so loud. He took one look at the ceiling fan on the floor all busted and was beginning to get angry, until we all heard the knocking at the door. The hallway door. It was insane because the doors beyond the hallway door were all locked. No one else was in the building but the youth and the youth pastor. I even watched the pastor count us to make sure we were all in the room, to be sure somebody hadn't snuck in the hallway to pull a prank. But we were all there. I watched his face contort into confusion as he walked slowly toward the hallway. The moment he stepped in front of the open bathroom door, the knocking stopped. He waited a few seconds, probably creeped out too, then lunged forward and grabbed the hallway doorknob. He yanked at the door. It didn't budge. He twisted the knob and yanked as hard as he could. The door would not open. The youth pastor was not a small guy, and even better, the hallway door itself did not have a lock on it. It opened inward towards us, so it couldn't have been a lock or barricaded. Something was holding on to the door from the other side, something stronger than the 250-pound youth pastor. After a few more hard pulls, the youth pastor stopped and began walking backward to stand next to us. "Everybody just stay right here," he told us. We all obeyed without question. I was too terrified to move. We ended up sitting down facing the hallway. The other kids and I could not help but continuously look around the room, scanning the dark and the windows for any sign of movement. We sat there for about 2 hours before something else happened. Long, drawn-out scratching noises came from the other side of the hallway door. They echoed throughout the assembly hall. Each scratch made my heart pound. I was beginning to sweat. Then the scratching stopped, and that door creaked open as well, slowly revealing the long, barely lit corridor. When I looked down the barely lit corridor, I saw what I thought was a shadowy mass hovering a foot off the ground, and I watched it float to the left toward the door that led to the main room. Immediately, but cautiously, we walked down the hallway and exited the church. We didn't see or hear anything else after that, and we didn't have any more lock-ins either. But after that night, I did hear plenty of the other churchgoers' creepy experiences. Shadows were a common sighting in and around the church at night, and on one occasion the pastor's wife had a light fixture almost fall on top of her. So, apparently my old church was haunted, and something had trapped us in there that night. Before this, the paranormal was really just an afterthought. I didn't think too much about it. But I was literally blindsided by this weird experience. Now I can't help but wonder what that was, and why was it haunting the grounds of a place that was meant to be holy? Chilling, isn't it? I mean, it makes sense that a spirit could be roaming the halls of a church. Religious grounds are rife with all kinds of activity beyond our world. It just goes to show you that no matter where you are, who you are, hauntings can take place anywhere. No one is safe, not even in the walls of a church. Good night. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks, and be sure to go to darknessprevails.org/project to donate any amount to help our website and get your own shout-out.
Okay. And that was Darkness Prevails' true story about a haunting in a church. Like, if you want to go to I don't have a link, but you can go to the channel. Just type in Darkness Prevails on YouTube. Okay. And I'll try getting as many videos as I can up again, because I used to not like to do this, but now I do. Okay. And I'll see y'all.